Hi, today's video is carving a beluga. This has been a nice little break from carving food items. I'm going to be going back to that soon-ish, but that was nice. And I'm really happy with how the beluga turned out. No major issue. The only small gripes I have with them is the head is a little bit less domed, a little bit more flat than I would have liked. The tail is not even. There's a side that's a bit thicker than the other, and not in a noticeable way, so it's not something that bothers me much. And I would have liked the fins to be a bit more angled towards the outside than what it ended up being, but nothing that problematic. I'm still really happy with how it turned out. So the first stage of carving this beluga was the section behind the tail, which went well. I carved it in two steps, one that just broke the corner roughly and one that's closer to the line. I find that carving in steps like this was a really good thing for this project. Carving small sections at a time requires it makes smaller chips and takes a lot. I have to put a lot less force on the knife to do the cut, which is really helpful. And this is where I made a bit of a mistake. It's not a big deal, but I didn't carve enough on one side. The second side was, I think I was tired at this point of the stream, or at least I was starting to get slightly tired, or I don't know what happened. I think it was a bad angle or something, but I carved the second half of the tail is thicker by quite a bit than the first half. Not a big deal again, but that's the point of the commentaries, to give my impressions on it all and self-critique to get better. So I kind of have to say the bad and the good. So then after the back of the tail was done, I carved the beluga's back, starting by the divot between the tail and the rest of the body, because the tail made a swoop. To carve this section, I made a triangular groove that allowed me to attack each side of the dip individually easier, because when carving it's easy to do the chip in one direction, but if I have to kind of go back and switch the direction of the cut midway, it just doesn't work. It just tends to break things and be a pain. But by making this big divot at the middle of the swoop, I was able to easily divide and conquer, so to speak. And it went pretty well. I wouldn't say perfect, nothing is perfect, but it is easily recognizable as a beluga, so that's really great. And then for the larger section of the back, what I was doing is I was removing a thin bit of wood near the line, and then once that bit of wood was removed, it was easy to remove a whole layer at once with a pretty big chip, because the line I'd traced and removed made it a very weak portion that was easy to leverage against to remove big parts. This saved a lot of time and was fairly easy to do. And I tried to maintain the curve of the back as much as possible. It's yeah, I was in the zone. It was a good process. It was I wouldn't say fun. It was kind of a grind near the end, but it wasn't a. It could have been much longer, and it was overall fun. In the edit, I removed large sections of the carving because it was mostly the same movement over and over again, and I didn't want to waste too much time. So there's a lot that's removed because visually, when two cuts are the exact same, to me at least, I try to remove the one I feel is less significant. So that cuts down the time of the video. That saves me a lot of effort in editing, and I think it's better overall, less boring. And because the video is shorter, I have less time to try to fill, which means that there'll hopefully be a lot less silence in this specific video. And now we've officially entered the footage of the second stream I did for this Beluga, where I continue carving the divot of the tail's swoop. This section I was a lot less in the zone, at least this section of the session. I was a lot less in the zone than I was for the first stream. It felt harder than the other two. Not even just the first session. The second session for this project was the hardest one. I just had difficulty doing anything. You even see me switching to a chisel at one point to try and change the movement to see if it's better, but it was kind of just, I wouldn't say miserable, it was just, I didn't like it as much as the first session and the third session. I think that might be because the first session is more exploratory, it's the discovery, it's the planning stage of the project, and the third one is the stage where it's almost over and we see the project end, and the second one is more of a grind, more of a, okay, we have the plan, we have to trust in the process and not really end anywhere. I think that's what makes the middle section more difficult, for me at least, when carving. But yeah. So after I was done with the divot of the tail, I started carving the underside of the Beluga, leaving plenty of material for the fins. And this, I made a corner channel at the point where between the fin and the body, to be able to easily remove the section underneath the head. And then once that was done, I started carving behind the fins. The underside was kind of easy because there wasn't much material to remove at that point. And with that, we are now reaching the third and final session of carving, at least. That began with me tracing what a Beluga looks from above, from reference. And then the initial plan here was to carve just a section around the head, then just a section around the fins, and then the section of the tail. But while I was carving the section around the first fin, I found that it was kind of difficult to figure out the shape of the body while trying to just carve around the fin. So I ended up carving all of one side almost fully, then went back to the other side fully. I kind of just split the fin from the rest of the body, then carved everything from the body without caring much about the initial sections I'd planned to carve. I felt like I was losing the shape of the body and kind of losing track, or I would have lost track if I did the sections as I initially planned. And I think it was the best idea I had about this project. Uh, I would have messed it up, I think, had I stuck to the initial plan. And the section was pretty easy to carve because the since everything was thinner because the top and the bottom had been removed, uh, one cut could do basically the whole width of the Beluga at once. So each cut felt much more significant and much more, yeah, much more significant. That's I don't need a better word than that, which made it feel really good to carve. At that point of the project, it was the best portion. Like it was not just I wasn't just doing finishing touches there. I was doing a lot of rough cuts, but rough cuts that removed a lot of material at once, while still being fairly precise since the material was thin to remove. So it was really nice. I liked it a lot. And now that I'd done a good section of the tail, I was trying to round out the body, make it as smooth as I could, and I made a divot at the tip of the at the end of the tail, because at least the pictures I was using as reference had such a divot in the tail. And yeah, from that point on until I start carving the head, it's all just trying to make it smooth and closer to the few reference images I was using. And here for the head, I think I should maybe have left myself more material in the rough cut stage so that I could have made the head a bit of a smoother dome. It's kind of a right now it's kind of a flat disc, maybe the shape of the top of the head, and given that the shape of the head is kind of a very distinctive part of a beluga's appearance, it felt kind of meh. It's really good, but it's the most underwhelming part of how I carved this beluga, in my opinion. So here you've seen me carve the shape of the eye and the mouth for this beluga. And finally, the belly, connecting the front and the back by removing the material that was I was using in France to make the fins as much as possible the same shape. And afterwards, there's just the painting, which I think I'll need a different type of paint. The paint I was using was way too liquid, so it's kind of really absorbed into the wood and it wasn't fun. I had to paint I only show one layer, but I had to paint 4 layers of paint for this beluga, and it didn't feel worth it. The paint was way too thin, but I got through it. It's fine. And once this paint is done, soon-ish, I would then just paint. Add just a single glob of paint into the high holes I'd dug to just be the final touch. And with that, the project is over. I'm really happy with it all. It's one of the carving projects I'm the most happy of right now. And yeah, with that, thank you for watching. Feel free to come by whenever you want. Bye.